On January 3, 1980, a young black woman was hired by the Washington Post and had proved herself to be a great writer and journalist, but that would all come crashing down when she published a story about an 8-year-old black boy who was a third-generation heroin addict, his mama an addict, and his stepdad a drug dealer who got him hooked. Cooke says she had interviewed the family and gave a very detailed account of their story, all the way down to the boy shooting up and the description of the needle. The story was published to the front page on September 28, 1980, entitled Jimmy's World. The story was an immediate hit, touching the hearts of the city, including Marion Barry, then mayor of D.C. Soon, Barry and other city officials organized an all-out police search for this boy, like the city was heartbroken. Where is Jimmy? Can we help him? However, as the city searched for this boy, more people doubted the story and hinted that Cooke might not be telling the truth. There were some red flags, including that she, who was not street savvy, had went into a rough neighborhood and interviewed an 8-year-old in front of his mama's drug-dealing boyfriend. People on the street also mentioned that junkies didn't trust reporters enough to use in front of them. Even people within the Post doubted the story, but ultimately the paper defended it, stood by Cooke, and her story was submitted for a Pultizler Prize. She won for feature writing on April 13, 1981. But when editors of the Toledo Blade, where Cooke had worked earlier, read her biographical notes, they noticed discrepancies. Cooke had never received a degree from Vassar College as claimed, or a master's degree from the University of Toledo. She had only attended Vassar for a year and received a bachelor's degree from Toledo. But this was not the only thing Cooke lied about. She also lied about this story. They couldn't find the 8-year-old boy because there was no 8-year-old black boy named Jimmy who was a heroin addict. She had made the whole thing up. 2 days after the prize had been awarded, Post publisher Donald E. Graham held a press conference and admitted that the story was fraudulent.
Not true.
She had not interviewed an 8-year-old heroin addict, and that the quotes attributed to him were fabricated.
So the Washington Post is publishing this morning an explanation of what went wrong with Janet Cooke's prize-winning story. A tale that prompted a massive wild goose chase by the city looking for Jimmy, a little boy who did not exist. The publisher, Donald Graham, says Janet Cooke also falsified her job application to the Post. She said she'd finished college at Vassar with a graduate degree from the University of Toledo. Neither credential was true.
Cooke also admitted she lied. She appeared on the Phil Donahue show in January of 1982 and said that the high-pressure environment of the Post had corrupted her judgment. She said that her sources had hinted to her about the existence of a boy such as Jimmy, but was unable to find him, so to satisfy her editors, she just made it up. In her interview with Donahue, Cooke said her editors never pressured her to give them the true identity of Jimmy or his mother. Another perspective was summed up perfectly by author Donovan X. Ramsey. He said, quote, "While Jimmy's world was fake, it reveals how, at the dawn of the crack epidemic, poor black communities and drugs existed in a very dark place within the American imagination. While cocaine had been socially acceptable, it was available for sale at pharmacies and even part of the original Coca-Cola recipe. Newspapers started running stories about cocaine-crazed Negroes. There was even an article published in the Medical News in 1902 titled Negro Cocaine Fiends. They claimed this is what made black men rape white women. Long story short, it was the drugs association with black people that turned Americans against cocaine. On December 17, 1914, Congress passed the Harrison Narcotics Tax Act, the first federal anti-drug law. Coming back to the story, this is why none of the editors working with Cooke or people who were supposed to be mentoring the then 25-year-old fact-checked her sources, because her story is on brand for what they already believed. It was a story of a poor black family of addicts. Of course it was true. As for Cooke, she got her award revoked, left the Post, and essentially disappeared. And her story is now a landmark case and cautionary tale in journalism ethics.